Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radharamana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radharamana Hari Govinda.
Welcome to the second segment of a transcendent paradigm. A paradigm means pattern or model. The model that we're now facing in this world and accepting so widely has two basic pillars to it. The first one is that we are identical with our bodies. I'm identical with my body, you are identical with your body. That's the first pillar of today's worldview. The second one is that consciousness comes from matter, or is evolved from a chemical combination of some kind. We are going to introduce a new paradigm that is superior to that one. In order to do that, we have to deconstruct the first one. So let's begin with the first assumption that we're equal, we're identical with these bodies. We have to think of the evidence that's to the contrary. First, let's begin with a fact of perception. We don't say I body, and that's a fact of language also. We say my body. We don't say I hand or I foot or my foot, my hand, my head. We never say I head, I foot, my hand. If you play with a child and you say to a child, well, what's this? They'll say, oh, that's my head. Oh, what's that? That's my foot. Oh, what's that? That's my elbow. He'll never say I head or I elbow or I foot. And the child knows the difference between himself and his body, between me and mine, between the observer, the seer, and his body. So, also we can remember having that child body, which we no longer have. We can remember having an older body, a youth body of youth, and we don't have that one anymore either. And we're sitting with our present body, and in a few years we can look back and remember this body, which means we're not this body either. In the future there'll be a dead body, and we're not that body either. We're none of them, from the beginning to the end. We know this. If you can just try this experiment for yourself. If you hold up your index finger, and you point it to your head, you point it to your chest, you point it to your elbow, to your ear, to your nose. And if I say, well, point it to yourself, what are you going to do? You'll probably point it to your chest, or maybe you'll point it to your head. If you point it to your chest, it means there's a chest bone there, and behind the bone there's a heart, there's a lung. You're going to be hard put to find yourself. If you point to your head, you're going to hit the skull, this stone helmet, which we're all going to have to take off sooner or later. And you point there, and you're going to, beneath the skull, there's the brain, the soft tissues of the brain. Again, if you go looking in there, you're going to be hard put to find yourself. Because we're not identical with the body or any of its parts. We have to overcome that in order to proceed further with the purpose of human life. The animals also eat, sleep, mate, and defend. We also eat, sleep, mate, and defend, just like the animals do. But we have a consciousness that's more developed than the animals. The animals don't even know they're on the Earth planet. The animals have no conception of being in the universe. And if we simply eat, sleep, mate, and defend, attempting to do so better than the animals, with our intelligence, our superior intelligence, that makes us simply intellectual animals. Just like this illustration will demonstrate. So the question arises, how did we forget what we knew when we were children, little children? The difference between me and myself, or my body, between I and my body. Why did we forget? Because this whole time, all these years, we've been trying to enjoy the world around us, all this material energy, with our senses. Trying to eat, sleep, mate and better than the animals, trying to see better, hear better, taste better, touch better. We've simply been trying to live a better animal life. We forgot the distinction between our consciousness and what's around us. Now the sages, they call that consciousness spiritual. They said the consciousness was spiritual and this body was material and everything around us was material. So how do we distinguish? Why do we not say that consciousness is just another material entity? Because the index of the difference is our dissatisfaction with this material world. Because we're not made of matter. We don't like old age, disease, and death. Nobody does. If anybody says they do, they're crazy. So we try to forget this by eating better, sleeping better, mating better, defending better, but we still don't forget it, so we have to take intoxicants to forget it. Nobody likes it. What do they do? People take all kinds of drugs. They take all kinds of allopathic medicine. They find ways to keep busy all day. They become workaholics. They have various ways, hobbies, to keep busy. Why? To be forgetful of the real problems in life, which we never learned in school, which we never learned in college. So, and then the latest intoxication, electronics. Before that, TV, radio, and now electronics. Keep us absorbed in that forgetfulness of the distinction between consciousness and the world around us. There's no evidence whatsoever that consciousness had been produced by inert matter. There's no evidence whatsoever. So this is the problem we have to solve. This is the first realization we have to have in the process, on the steps taken to be self-realized, to realize our real potential, to understand the spiritual nature of consciousness and what it means to be conscious, and to answer the question about higher consciousness. Is there a higher consciousness than the ones we can possibly have? Is there a consciousness beyond the consciousness that we have in our own bodies? I pinch here, you can't feel it. You pinch there, I can't feel it. Is there a consciousness that feels both? Is there a consciousness behind the universe? Or in it? In this connection, I wanted to read to you some of the verses that Prabhupada translated from the original Sanskrit. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, he is eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So these verses give us some food for thought. So, in our next segment, we're going to address the second pillar, more about how consciousness does not come from matter, and how to detect a super consciousness within ourselves, and how this body contains not only our consciousness, but a super consciousness, and how to detect the presence of that super consciousness. That'll be the subject of our segment next time. Thank you very much for your kind attention.